Professor Horror. Scary Stories.
Vanishing Point on Maple Street. Maple Street was a well-worn path in the town of Everwood. The streets were lined with colonial-style houses, each with a unique story that spanned generations. It was the kind of place where you knew your neighbor, and porch conversations were frequent. But one house, nestled halfway down Maple Street, stood out for all the wrong reasons. It was known as the Vanishing Point. For as long as anyone could remember, the house at 213 Maple Street had an eerie quality. It wasn't shabby or menacing in appearance, but it had a certain heaviness that made the residents uncomfortable. The house had changed hands multiple times over the decades, and every family that moved in disappeared. No notes, no warning, just gone. The vanishing pattern was so consistent that the house would remain empty for years, with locals too superstitious to go near it. Melanie, a journalist from the city, had recently moved to Everwood. She had heard whispers about the Vanishing Point, and being the investigative spirit that she was, Melanie decided to dig deeper. The local library was filled with archives and clippings about the house, each detailing the mysterious disappearances. The Thompsons, a family of 4, was the most recent family to vanish just 5 years ago. Feeling a pang of empathy for the missing families, Melanie decided to interview the residents of Maple Street. Old Mrs. Miller, who had lived 2 doors down from 213 for over 50 years, was the most willing to share. Over tea and biscuits, she recounted her experiences.
Every family that moved into that house seemed perfectly normal,
Mrs. Miller began, her voice quivering.
But within a few months, they would grow distant. The children stopped playing outside. The parents became withdrawn. And then one day, they'd just be gone.
What about the police? Melanie inquired.
Oh, they've been involved multiple times, but there's never been any evidence of foul play. No signs of a break-in or struggle. It's as if these families just vanished into thin air.
Determined to uncover the truth, Melanie spent a night at 213 Maple Street. Armed with cameras and recording equipment, she hoped to capture anything unusual. As night fell, the atmosphere inside the house grew thick. Every creak and whisper was amplified in Melanie's mind. Hours passed, and nothing unusual occurred. Just as Melanie was about to call it a night, she noticed something strange. A series of photos she had taken of the house's interior earlier showed a small door in the hallway that Melanie had missed. Intrigued, she went to investigate. Finding the door, she realized it was barely big enough for a person to fit through. Pulling it open, she discovered a narrow staircase leading downwards. As she descended, the air grew colder. At the bottom was a large, dimly lit room filled with old furniture and personal belongings. Photos, toys, letters, and more appeared to belong to the families living in the house. As Melanie examined the items, she realized that each family had left behind a journal. Flipping through the pages, she discovered eerily similar entries from each family, detailing a growing feeling of unease and paranoia, convinced that they were being watched. Suddenly, Melanie felt a chilling breeze. Looking up, she noticed a series of small holes in the ceiling. They spanned the entirety of the house above, effectively turning the entire home into a giant observation deck. Someone, or something, had been watching these families from beneath the house, driving them to extreme paranoia and eventually to flee without a trace. Panicking, Melanie scrambled to leave the basement, but the door slammed shut as she ascended upstairs. She heard the unmistakable sound of a lock clicking into place. Fumbling with the doorknob, Melanie's heart raced. Who or what had been observing these families? And what did they want with her? When Melanie didn't return next morning, her friends alerted the police. They found no trace of her being in the house, just her equipment and a journal with a single entry detailing her chilling discovery. The house at 213 Maple Street was boarded up and declared a no-go zone. Yet, the legend of Vanishing Point on Maple Street lives on, a haunting reminder of the unseen eyes that might be watching, driving the unsuspecting to despair and disappearance.